What if you could wield the full dark power of the Supreme King today? This is the Ultimate Anime Character Deck series where anime decks are reimagined with modern cards. Focus on staying as true to the character and their playstyle as possible, and built for casual play. In this video we're stepping into the shadows with the Supreme King's Evil Hero deck. First we'll take a look at the deck profile, then I'll showcase some basic combos the deck can do, and finally I'll share my thoughts on what the deck still needs in terms of future support. And now without any further ado, let's get started!
Alright, quickly before you dive into the full deck profile, if you want to see how the deck plays in action, I uploaded a live duel where the Supreme King's Evil Hero deck goes head to head against St. Truesdale's upgraded Cyber Dragons. It's a duel that never happened in the anime, but now that both decks have received modern support, finally get to find out who would come out on top. You can check it out after this, the link's in the description. Now let's kick off the deck profile with one of the latest additions to the archetype, and easily one of its best starters, Evil Hero Dead End Prison. You can special summon it from your hand if you already control an Evil Hero fusion monster, making it really easy to get on the field once your plays are underway. This card is an evil retrain of Elemental Hero Prisma, sharing the exact same attribute, stats and a similar effect. You can send any hero monster from your deck to the graveyard as cost, meaning it cannot be negated by an Ash Blossom for example, and then this card can be used as a substitute for a specifically named material during a hero fusion summon that turn, as long as the other materials are correct. And the main reason this is such a good start is because it can easily send our next key card to the graveyard. Evil Hero Sinister Necrom, the corrupted version of Elemental Hero Necroshade. Because this card can once per turn be banished from the graveyard to special summon any evil hero except for itself straight from the deck. And the prime target for that effect is Evil Hero Infernal Rider. This card is based on Picador Fiend, the monster that appeared in Axel's Nightmare, where the Supreme King rode it as a steed while hunting him down. If this monster is summoned, you can add a Dark Fusion from your deck or graveyard to your hand. It also has a powerful effect in the graveyard. You can banish it along with 4 other hero monsters to set Super Polymerization directly from your deck. And what makes it even more interesting is that it changes the rules. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, Super Polymerization can now be used to fusion summon monsters that would normally require Dark Fusion. This is a very cool reference to the anime. The part where you banish 5 monsters to get Super Polymerization is a nod to Braun, the Mad King of Dark Worlds, who planned to sacrifice 5 of Jaden's friends to acquire it. And just like in the anime, this effect lets us use Super Polymerization to summon evil hero monsters. Now you can activate it during your opponent's turn, fuse off one of their monsters, and bring out your own evil hero fusion in true Supreme King style. Pretty cool. Next up is Evil Hero Adusted Gold, the dark version of Elemental Hero Captain Gold. In the original, Captain Gold could be discarded to search Skyscraper from your deck. This evil counterpart works similarly, but instead lets you search for Dark Fusion or any card that mentions it. That's a huge upgrade. And this card really boosts the deck's consistency by helping you find a key card when you need it. Next up is one of my personal favorites from the new support, Evil Hero Toxic Bubble. We now finally have an evil version of Bubble Man. This card can once per turn be special summoned from your hand. No more awkward restrictions like the original, which could only be special summoned if it was the only card in your hand. It does lock you into summoning hero monsters for the rest of the turn, but in this version of the deck that doesn't matter, because we're only playing heroes anyway. And if it's special summoned while you control a monster that must be summoned using Dark Fusion, in other words, any evil hero fusion monster, you get to draw 2 cards. That's a massive upgrade compared to the original Bubble Man, which required you to have no cards on your field or in your hand just to draw. In most hero decks, this might only be played as a one-off at best, but since we're building as pure of a modernized anime style deck as possible, I bumped it up to 3. This card is always a free extender with the possibility to also get a Pot of Greed on top of that, which makes it better in pretty much every way compared to something like Infernal Prodigy. And honestly, there's nothing that feels more anime than activating Pot of Greed or drawing 2 cards of Bubble Man's effect. Toxic Bubble is the closest you're going to get to that, and it fits perfectly in a deck like this. And now for the final Evil Hero main deck monster, and the latest addition to the archetype, Evil Hero Vicious Claws. This card's a modern retrain of Vicious Claws, an equip spell used by the Supreme King in the anime. The original effect was pretty convoluted, but thankfully, the new version streamlines everything into one cohesive monster. You can special summon Vicious Claws from your hand in defense position by targeting a hero monster you control, and that monster gains 300 attack, just like the original equip spell. If one of your monsters is destroyed by battle or card effect while Vicious Claws is in your graveyard, you can special summon it back from the grave, and then immediately non-targeting destroy 1 card on the field, as long as you have a monster that mentions Dark Fusion in your graveyard. This effect would be absolutely crazy if it was once per turn, so Konami made it a once per duel effect instead. This is a big improvement over the original Vicious Claws, which had a long list of convoluted effects. It bounced back to the hand to prevent destruction, then destroy the monster on the field, but not the one it battled, and finally summoned a 2500 attack evil token to your opponent's field. So instead of all that, they condense it to a single monster that references both the equipped spell and the token, but now you get a 2500 body on your side of the field, not your opponent. Pretty cool card, and a really nice callback to that moment in the anime. And that's it for all of the Evil Hero main deck monsters, but we're also playing a few Elemental Hero cards that fit the strategy, and feels like something the Supreme King might still use in a modern version of his deck. First we've got the OG heroes, Elemental Hero Avian and Burstinatrix. It's so cool and super nostalgic to be able to use these in this deck, and I'll show you how a little bit later in the combo section of the video. Next we're running triple Elemental Hero Stratos. Now the Supreme King didn't use this card in the anime, but I feel like he absolutely would today. It searches any evil hero and it's hands down the best starter for the deck. Without Stratos, the deck is a bit short on reliable starters, especially since we're playing some bricks like Avian and Burstinatrix. So this version of the deck really needs him. But it would be even cooler to have an evil hero retrain someday to replace him. And now for the final Elemental Hero monsters, Elemental Hero Shadow Mist, and of course Elemental Hero Neos. Shadow Mist is here for the same reason as Stratos. When it's sent to the graveyard it can search any hero monster, giving the deck a bit more flexibility to grab exactly what you need. It's also a good card to send with Dead End Prison for example. And Elemental Hero Neos is here as a fusion material for Evil Hero Neos Lord, the Supreme King's corrupt version of Neos. And that's it for the monsters, now let's move on to the spells and traps. Let's start with the card the entire deck is built around, Dark Fusion. The corrupted counterpart to Polymerization. It lets you fusion summon a Fiend type fusion monster using materials from your hand or field. And the monster you summon cannot be targeted for the rest of the turn, which is a nice bit of bonus protection. This card is absolutely essential since all of our Evil Hero fusions specifically require Dark Fusion to be summoned. Luckily, we now have more ways to access those summons with cards that count as Dark Fusion. First, Dark Calling, which lets you fusion summon Evil Hero monsters by banishing materials from your hand or graveyard. And Dark Contact, the Evil Hero region of Miracle Contact. This card has actually two different effects. The original Miracle Contact lets you summon a fusion monster that listed Elemental Hero Neos as material, by shuffling materials into the deck from your hand, field or graveyard. But Dark Contact works a little bit differently. Instead of using cards from your hand like Miracle Contact, it lets you summon any Evil Hero fusion monster by shuffling materials into the deck from your field, graveyard or banished zone. Alternatively, instead of fusion summoning, you can choose to add a Dark Fusion or Supreme King's Castle from your deck to your hand instead. So thanks to this card, we now got a lot of flexible options when it comes to choosing the right fusion spell for the situation. Next up we have Evil Assault, easily one of the best new cards we've gotten from the last wave of support. By discarding one card, you can either add to your hand or special summon any level 4 or lower evil hero directly from the deck. And a turn after it's been sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to add a Dark Fusion spell from your graveyard back to your hand. So it even gives you a bit of recursion going into your next turn. This card also seems like a fun nod to Assault Armor, which Jaden used in his duel against Braun. That card featured Neos on the artwork, but here we see Evil Hero Infernal Gainer in almost the exact same pose. Definitely a fun little Easter egg. Next is probably the most iconic card tied to the Supreme King, Super Polymerization. It's awesome that we can include this card in the deck and actually use it to summon Evil Hero monsters. Since all Evil Hero fusions originally require a Dark Fusion spell, Super Polymerization couldn't be used to summon them. But thanks to Infernal Rider, that restriction's been bypassed. Not only can we use Super Polymerization to bring out Evil Hero fusions just like in the anime, we also have a way to search for it. Supreme King's Castle could also bypass that restriction when it came out a few years ago, but Infernal Rider handles it way more effectively, since it also searches Super Polymerization for you. Now, you might be thinking, isn't Super Poly a bit too strong if you're playing casually against other anime style decks without meta staples? And that's a fair concern. But I think it's completely fine here, as long as you're only using it to summon Evil Hero fusions. Most of them practically require at least one of your own monsters to be used as material. So while it's still a great removal and disruption tool, I don't think it's overpowered in this context. Next is the final Evil Hero card in the main deck, the trap card Dark Supremacy. In terms of artwork, this is easily my favorite card from the new wave of support. It even features the Supreme King's henchman lurking in the background, which is a really cool touch. The effect is strong too. It lets you target and negate your opponent's face-up cards, up to the number of Dark Fusion cards and spell that mentioned it in your graveyard. So negating up to 3 cards isn't that hard to pull off. Its secondary effect lets you banish it from the graveyard the turn after it was sent there, to shuffle up to 5 heroes from your graveyard and your banished zone back into the deck. That gives you a great way to recycle key resources like Infernal Rider, and anything you banish to activate its effects. Next, we have a couple of cards that are mainly here to improve the deck's consistency. Foolish Burial and Reinforcements of the Army. Foolish Burial can send Shadow Mist to the graveyard, which lets us then search for any hero we want. Another good target is Sinister Necrom, which can then special summon an evil hero from the deck. And Rhoda acts as another copy of Stratos, the best starter in the deck. And speaking of Stratos, we've got even more ways to get to it. We're playing Triple Hero Lives, which can special summon Stratos straight from the deck if you control no face-up monsters, at the cost of half your life points. We're also running 3 copies of Emergency Call, which you'll probably use to grab Stratos 95% of the time, though it's also handy for grabbing Elemental Hero Neos, if you already have access to Stratos some other way. Like I mentioned earlier, the evil hero side of the deck is a little short on strong starters, and since we're also playing a few bricks like Avian and Burstinatrix, having all these ways to access Stratos really helps smooth things out. Altogether we're basically running 10 copies of Stratos, which goes a long way in making the deck more consistent. And that's it for the main deck cards. We're sitting at 38 cards so far. That leaves a few flex spots you can customize based on your own preferences. Here are some suggestions. If you really want to play the 4 original elemental heroes, you could add Sparkman and Clayman. Unfortunately, they don't offer nearly as much utility as Avian and Burstinatrix, which can be used to summon a new evil hero Inferno Wing. It's a shame we didn't get a retrain of evil hero Lightning Golem. I really hope Konami makes one eventually. That could make it more worthwhile to play all 4 of the classic heroes and have a real payoff for it. You could also include Wildheart, as it's mentioned as a material on an evil hero fusion, but it's definitely not necessary because of Dead End Prison, so I don't include them by default. There's also a couple of evil hero cards you could play in the deck. Evil Hero Infernal Prodigy is the corrupted version of Hero Kid, and can be special summoned from the hand in attack position if you control no monsters. I used to run this at 3, but with the release of the new cards like Toxic Bubble, which is better in basically every way, Prodigy just isn't necessary anymore. Still, you could include it if you like the card. The last 2 evil heroes are Malicious Edge and Infernal Gainer. Malicious Edge can be tribute summoned with just 1 tribute if your opponent controls a monster, and deals piercing damage. Infernal Gainer can banish itself from the field to let one of your fiend monsters attack twice each battle phase. Then it comes back to standby phases later. These 2 don't offer much for this deck, and since they don't help your game plan and add more bricks, I wouldn't recommend them. There are also a couple of Dark Fusion related spell cards, Supreme King's Castle and Evil Mind. Supreme King's Castle is a field spell that lets you fusion summon evil heroes without Dark Fusion, similar to how Infernal Rider bypasses the summoning requirement. It also has a secondary effect. Once per turn during damage calculation, you can send an evil hero from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard to boost that fiend monster's attack by its level times 200. It fits the theme, but in practice Infernal Rider already does this, and even serves as super polymerization for you. Evil Mind gives you, if you control a fiend monster, different effects depending on how many monsters are in your opponent's graveyard. With 1 you draw a card. With 4, search a hero or Dark Fusion, and with 10, add a polymerization or a fusion spell. Unfortunately, it's pretty much unplayable turn 1, and this is something the deck really needs, since it doesn't do anything on its own. Another more generic anime theme card you could throw in the deck is Monster Reborn. The Supreme King didn't use it, but Jaden did, so the king probably has access to it if he wanted. And if you're okay going slightly off theme, Vision Hero Vian is a great consistency boost, sending any hero from the deck to the graveyard when summoned. There are plenty of good targets in this build, and if you want to go even further, you could also run Ferris and Increase to flesh out a mini Vision Hero package. Alright, that wraps up the main deck. Now let's move on to the extra deck. First up is Evil Hero Inferno Wing, Backfire, a retrain of the original Inferno Wing. This is often one of the first cards we go into. When it's summoned, Backfire lets you search any card that's related to Dark Fusion, either from your deck or graveyard. And on top of that, once per turn, if a hero destroys a monster by battle, it burns your opponent for 2100 damage. Similar to the original, it lists Avian and Burstinatrix as fusion material, but this newer version only requires 1 of the 2, plus 1 other generic hero. And since Dead End Prison can substitute for a specifically named material, you don't technically need Avian and Burstinatrix to summon it. But even cooler, you can summon it the classic way with Avian and Burstinatrix pretty easily thanks to the next card, Extra Hero Infernal Divisor. This is a Dark Fiend extra hero, which fits the evil hero theme perfectly. When it's summoned, you can reveal a hero fusion from your extra deck, like Inferno Wing Backfire, and then search up the 2 monsters that are specifically listed as material on that card. So in this case you can grab both Avian and Burstinatrix straight from your deck, which is awesome and really gives that anime feel when you play. It also has a small bonus effect. Any feat monster it points to gains attack and defense equal to its level times 100. Another great fusion to reveal off of Infernal Divisor is the deck's newest boss monster, Evil Hero Neos Lord. And in the artwork, Neos is actually wearing the Supreme King's armor, which is such a cool detail. It requires Elemental Hero Neos or a fusion monster that mentions it, plus any effect monster on the field. Once it's out, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, which makes it already pretty difficult to deal with. But the best part, if it's special summoned, or anytime a monster is sent to your opponent's graveyard while you control Neos Lords, you can target and take control of one of their monsters, and that steal is permanent. It's like Neos Lord is so intimidating, it just immediately converts monsters to the dark side. This effect makes it great for going first, since you can steal something as disruption on your opponent's turn, or going second when you can take control of one of their problematic monsters and turn it against them. Neos Lord is a great boss monster, but the previous ace of the archetype, Evil Hero Malicious Bane, is still just as strong and absolutely worth playing. Like Neos Lord, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, giving it strong protection right out of the gate. Once per turn during your main phase, it can destroy all monster your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to its own, and then it gains 200 attack for each monster destroyed this way, making it even more dangerous the next time it activates. The only catch is that for the rest of the turn, you can only attack with hero monsters. So if you saw a monster earlier with Neos Lord, you won't be able to attack with it that turn. Still, Malicious Bane is a fantastic card for going second. It helps out clear your opponent's board or force out interactions early. It also has flexible fusion requirements. Just one evil hero plus one level 5 or higher monster, which makes it one of the best super poly targets during the opponent's turn. Next we have two evil hero fusions that function similarly, Evil Hero Dark Gaia and Evil Hero Darkest Night. Both have fairly generic fusion requirements. Each one needs a fiend monster, but Dark Gaia pairs with a rock, while Darkest Night requires a warrior. Darkest Night is quite easy to summon in this build, since we're already running multiple warrior monsters. Dark Gaia used to be trickier to bring out in previous versions of the deck, but now we have Dead End Prison, the only evil hero that's a rock type, so it's finally easier to play in a pure evil hero deck. Their effects are also somewhat mirrored. Dark Gaia gains attack equal to the combined original attack of the monsters used for its fusion summon, and when it attacks, it forces all your opponent's monsters into attack position. Darkest Night doesn't gain attack itself. Instead, it reduces your opponent's attack by the combined attack of the materials used to summon it. It can also attack twice per battle phase, and if it leaves the field due to an opponent's card, you can special summon a fiend or a warrior from your graveyard in defense position. You probably won't summon these guys much, but Darkest Night can come in handy sometimes to secure an OTK. Next up we've got three of the original evil hero fusions, Lightning Golem, Infernal Sniper, and Wild Cyclone. These are definitely more flavor than function. Fun to include if you're going for a full-on anime style build, but definitely not necessary. Lightning Golem is the corrupted version of Thunder Giant that lets you target and destroy one monster on the field, but summoning it requires Sparkman and Clayman, so you need to include at least one of them in your main deck. Infernal Sniper is the evil counterpart of Rampart Blaster. It can all be destroyed by spell effects, and if it's in defense position during your standby phase, it burns your opponent for 1000 damage. Wild Cyclone is the evil version of Wild Wingman. If it inflicts battle damage, it destroys all set spell and traps your opponent controls. And while it's attacking, your opponent cannot activate cards during the damage step. And that wraps up the themed evil hero fusions. Now let's finish with a couple of utility link monsters that help smooth out our plays. Extra Hero Wonder Driver and Dread Decimator. Sometimes after using Infernal Divisor, you'd rather have it or another monster hit the graveyard instead of sticking on the field. For example, to make sure you have enough heroes in the graveyard to activate Infernal Rider's effects. And these link monsters help make that happen, while also offering some utility. Wonder Driver can reset Dark Fusion from your graveyard back onto the field, if a monster special summon to a zone it points to. And if it is destroyed by your opponent, it can also special summon a hero from your hand. Dread Decimator is a solid option when you want to put a Link 2 in the graveyard, but it also deals piercing battle damage, and it boosts the attack of any hero it points to by 100 for every unique hero in the graveyard. And that brings us to 14 cards in the extra deck, which leaves one flex spot. Here are a few options you can consider for that final slot. A second copy of Infernal Divisor can sometimes come up in follow-up turns, especially if your first one gets negated. I didn't include the original Inferno Wing in this build, since there's not really a reason to summon it over the upgraded version. But if you like the original for nostalgia or theme, you can always slot it in. Evil Hero Malicious Edge is a dark counterpart to Elemental Hero Wild Edge, and just like Inferno Wing, there's usually a better option to go into. So it really just depends on which of the flavor picks you personally enjoy the most. And that's it for the deck profile. Now on to the combos. Alright, we'll start simple with a clean 1-card combo using Dead End Prison. This is one of the deck's best starters, and on its own it already gets us to one of our key fusion monsters. We start by normal summoning Dead End Prison, and use its effect to send Sinister Necrom to the graveyard. Next, banish Sinister Necrom to special summon Evil Hero Infernal Rider. And with that, we search Dark Fusion. Now, because Dead End Prison acts as a substitute for any specifically named hero, we've got access to a bunch of different fusion options depending on the situation. You can fusion summon Backfire to get an extra search. You could also go for Malicious Bane if you're going second and want to clear your opponent's board. Or bring out Neo's Lord and immediately steal one of their monsters. And if you want to go for raw damage, you could even make Dark Gaia, which ends up with 3800 attack in this example. The archetype's own starter gets you straight into one of your boss monsters in just a few simple steps. And in terms of both power level and overall simplicity, it feels similar to the Flame Swordsman Red Eyes Metamorph deck I showcased previously, where a single card could lead into a boss monster or a basic disruption. Nothing too crazy, but solid for casual play. Alright, the next combo I'm going to show you can be pulled off with a lot of different 2-card combinations. You'll need Stratos or a card that gets you to Stratos, like a Hero Lives, Emergency Call or Reinforcement of the Army. The second card we need is either Evil Assault, a Dusted Gold, Sinister Necrom, Vicious Claws, Shadow Mist or Foolish Burial. The sequencing changes slightly depending on which card you open, but the end result is the same. For this example we're using Sinister Necrom. We start by normal summoning Stratos to use its effect to search a Dusted Gold. Then with the Dusted Gold we grab Evil Assault. We discard Sinister Necrom to activate it, to special summon Dead End Prison from the deck. Next we banish Sinister Necrom to special summon Evil Hero Infernal Rider. And if that monster is summoned, you can add Dark Fusion to your hand. Next it's time to use Dead End Prison. We send Shadow Mist to the graveyard to grab Vicious Claws. Then we link Stratos and Infernal Rider away to summon extra hero Infernal Divisor. With the Visor's effect, we reveal Backfire in our extra deck to add Avian Ember Stinatrix to our hand. Alright, now before we fusion summon Backfire, it's important to first special summon Vicious Claws and then link it away with Infernal Divisor to bring out Wonder Driver. Now we use Dark Fusion to fuse Avian Ember Stinatrix together to call forth Inferno Wing Backfire. And we need to summon her to the zone Wonder Driver points to. Now Wonder Driver's effect activates as Chainlink 1 and Backfire as Chainlink 2. With Backfire we search the Dark Supremacy trap card. And Wonder Driver resets our Dark Fusion back to the field to be used again. Now we use Dark Fusion again, in this case Dead End Prison counts as Elemental Hero Neos, and fuse it with Wonder Driver to summon our new boss monster, Evil Hero Neos Lord. Finally, we use Infernal Rider's effect in the graveyard, we banish it along with 4 other heroes to set Super Polymerization directly from the deck. And this is our end board. We have Neos Lord, which cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. And if a monster hits the opponent's graveyard, we can permanently steal an opponent's monster. The Dark Supremacy trap card can negate 2 cards on the field simultaneously, because we have Dark Fusion and Evil Assault in the graveyard. We also got Vicious Claws in the graveyard, which can reborn itself if one of our monsters is destroyed by battle or card effect. Then it immediately destroys 1 card on the field, non-targeting. We also have Super Polymerization face down, which we can activate during the opponent's turn to fuse away one of their monsters to make something like Malicious Bane. And we still have 3 cards in our hand. One of those can be discarded for Super Polymerization. This is the main combo of the deck. You can get this board in a ton of different ways with a lot of different opening hands. But the overall ceiling is going to look about the same. Alright, now let's wrap up with my overall thoughts on the deck, and what it still needs in terms of future support. The new Evil Hero support gave this deck a huge boost. We've got an awesome new boss monster, a way to finally use Super Polymerization reliably, and some great retrains, consistency tools and unique disruptions. And by mixing in a few key Elemental Hero cards, building a pure Supreme King style deck finally feels possible. Before this wave, there wasn't just enough support to build a focused themed deck around him. That said, the deck still has its issues. The Evil Hero engine really struggles with consistent starters. Stratos, a 15-year-old card at this point, still does pretty much everything better than any of the EVO Hero specific starters. And even after maxing out our access to Stratos, giving us an over 80% chance of opening him, the deck can still feel bricky at times, with the occasional unplayable hands like this one for example. I guess Konami thought the same, because a card like Evil Assault often does double duty. The discard it requires can feel more like a benefit than a cost, since you've often got cards in your hand that are better off in the graveyard anyway. So what could help? Personally, I'd love to see a corrupted version of Stratos, something that can search or extend specifically EVO Hero cards. And while we're at it, I'd love to see more retrains of classic EVO Hero fusions. Right now, cards like Lightning Golem, Infernal Sniper and Wild Cyclone are mostly just here for flavor. But with modern retrains, they could become interesting toolbox options. Wild Cyclone for back row destruction for example, and Lightning Golem for monster removal. And you know how Jaden had his classic hero sport spells like H Heated Heart, E Emergency Call, R Righteous Justice and O Oversoul? It would be amazing if the Supreme King got his own dark version, one for each letter in Evil. So here's my question for you. What would your EVO Hero versions of the classic hero spell cards look like? And which hero monster do you think deserves their own corrupted EVO Hero retrains? Let me know in the comments, I always enjoy reading your ideas. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more of these anime style character builds. If you want to see the deck in action, don't forget to check out the live duel we did against Zain's upgraded Cyber Dragons. The link's in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.